5th of March 2023. In this Skidmark, it's one of those what a fuck moments. I'm going to talk about the possibility of a civil war in America. Now I know many people are going to frown and a lot are going to immediately think I lost my mind. But during the pestilence, I was thinking a lot. I had a lot of time on my hands, being locked down and all of that. And I have made a few posts. One of the posts I said that the one thing that this lockdown is going to do is most probably it is going to awaken nationalism. And if I say nationalism, don't confuse it with the use of the word amongst radicals. Look at it in the sense of people are looking at who they are, where they come from, and what their culture is really about. And that is what I mean when I talk about nationalism. I also stated that I am convinced that the EU has reached end of life. That thing is going to fall apart because nationalism, cultural boundaries, cultural realities are ignored. And the influx of those millions of immigrants is putting European culture at risk. America has got a similar problem, but in America you've got that strange situation that they only have a two-party political system. And after the fiasco around the Trump thing, it became clear that in reality, that farmer out on the Wyoming flatlands, his vote has got a very limited influence on his future. For the simple reason, once those candidates, whether it's red or blue, land in Washington, they are very quickly drawn into the mainstream and the narrative of the day is followed. And the farmer in Wyoming is not anywhere on anybody's mind. The moral decay of the American society is on the front pages of the international. Their absolute insane drive with the gender thing and the racism thing, all of those things works together to threaten ordinary people's lives. Threaten it in the sense that they are basically forced to become something else. Now, I've always maintained that the average American person is very similar to the average South African white boer, and they are in essence God-fearing conservative people that believe in family values and they believe in a good moral living standard. They believe in their families, their children, and their children is very important to them. And this gender thing is pushed out of proportion and with full support of the Liberal administration. And that must upset people. And I was in a discussion one night with a guy and I said to him, I believe that the United States will have to break up. Otherwise, roughly half of the population is going to lose what they actually are. Because that political system pays no attention to the individuals anymore. And we had quite a debate about it. And I said to him, my biggest concern is that it may lead to civil war. And he was extremely agitated when I said that. Now, I know this guy many years. And he gave me a lot of explanations why it wouldn't happen, couldn't happen, whatever. And then I listened to a discussion on the Durand, and they said that there was a poll somebody ran a poll in January 2022, and one of the questions was, what is the possibility of a civil war? And only 4% of the respondents indicated that there is a possibility. And then they ran that same poll again in January 2023, and 43% people said there was a possibility of a civil war. Now, I'm not going to take any chances on indicating that it is a reality or what, but the truth is many people are frustrated. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene, after this last election, and once again there was lots of stories, and for reasons that you should know, I cannot talk about that or name it or say what the hell actually happened and so forth. But there was very serious accusations around the authenticity of the process. Be it as it may, Marjorie Taylor Greene came out with a bomb. Marjorie Taylor Greene says, national divorce needed to avoid a civil war. Everyone I talk to is sick and tired and fed up of being bullied by the left, Greene said, while explaining the need for a national divorce. Then I saw this article from Telegraph. The United States proposed to divide in two parts. In recent years, the Democratic and Republican parties of the United States have been clashing foreheads more often. Their disputes concern education, LGBT rights, and the country's foreign policy. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene accused Joe Biden and other Democrats of trying to raise a generation of young Americans without respect for faith and traditional values and of funding the conflict in Ukraine. According to her, ordinary U.S. residents are dissatisfied with Washington's foreign policy and want peace. In order to avoid civil war, she proposed a national divorce. It suggests that the country will be divided into red, conservative, and blue left states. In this case, they will be able to control the spheres of education, trade, and communication, but the federal government will remain just. Its powers will be significantly reduced. Greene gave an example of the changes that could theoretically occur after such a divorce. Schools in the red states will retain the oath of allegiance to the flag and under the national anthem, which students say, and in blue the traditional anthem will be replaced with a more tolerant one. The Congresswoman also believes that her proposal will help prevent a third world war, since the Pentagon will focus on protecting the American borders. She noted that now the military leaders of the United States first of all curry favor with Ukraine. Now, that is something to think about. Let's just think about it, because what she says makes a lot of sense. And there are people that can make her out for being whatever you want to call her. But listen to what she is saying. People are getting fed up with their rights being trampled. That's the thing. And I think there's a lot of logic in what she is saying. In my one discussion with a guy, he said to me that the problem is that America doesn't have blue states. They've got some blue cities, but they don't have blue states. Now, how true that is, I wouldn't know. But the fact of the matter is, the red and blue can no longer coexist, because the problem comes in fundamentals. The red is conservative, they love America, they are God-fearing, they believe in their children, and they feel compelled to provide a secure future for their children. Where on the blue side, there's no morality, nothing is sacred, they break down statues, they ignore the national anthem, they change words and things like as it suits them. The gender thing is pushed down everybody's throats, and that's it. So they are actually, in a nutshell, immoral, and that's the end of it. And but let's continue. This was a tweet that Marjorie Taylor Greene did. Washington and the political world are totally disconnected from real Americans and how they think and feel, and they hate it when I'm right. Whether anyone likes it or not, we are headed for a national divorce, but I don't want a civil war, and it should never come to that. And then Paul Bedard responded, Marjorie Taylor Greene nailed it. Support across the board for a national divorce. Pollster Jeremy, it is staggering to the extent it cuts across all demographics, he told Secrets. And there is something to think about. Member of the US House Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has stated the possibility of a civil war in the United States. She said that the US is headed for a major divorce in which Republican and Democratic states would separate, and called on Washington to avert conflict within the US. Whether anyone likes it or not, we are headed for a national divorce. But I don't want a civil war. It should never come to that, Taylor Greene stressed. She noted that at the moment, Washington and the political world in the US are totally disconnected from real Americans. Now, all I say, the whole setup in the world, the Western world specifically, is bringing culture to the foreground. And there's most that old saying that says birds of a feather flock together. And I think that what Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying needs to be debated seriously in America, because in my mind they have that option of a divorce, as she says it, and if that divorce is properly managed, it can be a good divorce, or the alternative is a civil war. And the end of a civil war will most probably also end in a shattering of the United States into, I wouldn't think that it will split into all 52 states, but it will end up with maybe 5 or 6 blocks. And that is where I personally think it is heading, unless it is managed properly. If you don't agree with me, please comment on this video. And just remember this, I'm sitting at the southern tip of Africa and I observe the things I see. The madness around the Ukraine and the money pumped in there by the Biden regime is absolutely shocking. The fact is, in America, people are struggling to eat. People don't have shelter. They live in tents, they live in stormwater drains, they live under bridges. Their infrastructure is falling apart. But that government in Washington feels nothing for that. They pump billions into Ukraine. They pumped billions into Afghanistan and left billions there all along. If you are objective about it, the America of the 50s and 60s is gone. America was truly a world leader at that stage. amazing infrastructure, amazing technological breakthroughs and things happened. Where is that today? When last did you see a decent infrastructure project of national size happen in the US? Look at China. They built 5,600 kilometers of high-speed rail every year. Look at their rail systems. Just look at, in general, their infrastructure. Look at Russia. Look at what Russia is doing to its infrastructure. And then look at America. America pumped billions into wars around the globe. Please give me a like, subscribe, and share the thing. Thank you for your support.